All right, let's take a look at document 2. We're going to look at the historical context for the Bandung Conference first, and then get into the actual document. The Bandung Conference was an Asian-African conference in 1955. It says, in April of 1955, representatives from 29 governments of Asian and African nations gathered in Bandung, Indonesia, to discuss peace and the role of the Third World in a post-World War society. So we're talking post-World War II society. The core beliefs of the Bandung Conference were gaining political independence, or freedom, respect from world powers, and an agreement that superpowers would not aggressively invade or colonize any longer. They're considering superpowers, where it says superpowers. They're basically talking about the United States, European nations, and Russia. Russia has become a really big concern during this time. This understanding that they would be allowed to govern and manage their own countries and people, and equality. These issues were of central importance to all participants at the conference, most of which had recently just won their independence and ended colonialization. So this is what they were shooting for. It was their big aim. So I'm going to highlight that. So, if you have more questions about the Bandung Conference, you can click here. It will take you to more information about it. Now let's take a look at document 2. This comes from Anwar el-Sadat, the Afro-Asian Solidarity and the World Mission for the Peoples of Africa and Asia in 1957, address delivered by Mr. Anwar el-Sadat at the first Afro-Asian Peoples Solidarity Conference, December 26, 1957. Because it says addressed by, that tells me that this is a speech. So where I see the address was delivered by, that tells me it is a speech given by Mr. Anwar el-Sadat on December 26, 1957. So this speech is from the perspective of the peoples of Africa and Asia during the beginning of colonial resistance. How would the people of Africa and Asia likely feel about colonization? So they likely would have supported it or opposed it. So did they want it to continue and they liked it and it was great and they were super psyched on it? Or did they oppose it and they wanted to end it and get rid of their European and American colonizers? I agree. Oppose. So they opposed it. Why do we think that is? It's because the colonizers had long oppressed the peoples of those areas, those regions, and taken their land, resources, and lives for the benefit of the, quote, mother country. Okay. The title of the speech is Afro-Asian Solidarity and the World Mission of the Peoples of Africa and Asia. I want you to make an inference about what the speech is likely about. So even before we read it, what do you think that this is likely about? The speech is likely about the unification of nations that were formerly colonized. Yikes. Formerly colonized. Unification of nations were formerly colonized against the potential for renewed imperial, renewed colonization in those regions. So it's basically this idea of like coming together, unifying in solidarity against European, American the superpower colonizers. So let's take a look at what this says. So it says, quote, for more than 2 years ago, 29 governments of independent states convened together at the Bandung Conference to declare to the world at large that the tide of history had changed its course, and that Asia and Africa, which had been Europe's common playing ground, where invaders took what they pleased or demanded what they wanted, had now become free world powers, majestic and serene, with a decisive role in shaping the future of the world, of the whole family of nations. Right, so based on that, why do you think many smaller nations came together at the Bandung Conference? So what brought them together? Think about what happens when, think about if you were trying to go against Europe. Why would you have done that? So I'm going to say smaller countries came together at the conference hoping to create an organization that would allow them to stand in opposition or against of European colonizers or former colonizers. So it's kind of the idea of like all the little guys banding together to go against the powerful European nations. It continues. It is evident, therefore, that the Bandung Conference was not a worthless event, but rather a huge success which led to the awakening of the peoples of Africa and Asia and roused them from their slumber to solve the problem for their existence and survival, and to resume the struggle of the recovery of their liberty and freedom. No doubt each country had its own particular problems that are probably best solved by that country itself. But at the same time, there is not a shadow of doubt also that it is within the power of each of us to extend a helping hand to his brother in time of need, in an endeavor to assist in solving his problems, be it only in the form of genuine, friendly counsel or an expert advice to help our fellow formerly colonized nations. So I see here it is to extend a helping hand to a brother in time of need. What was the main goal of the Bandung Conference? Was it to bring colonized nations together to help one another fight for freedom and independence? Was it to end European colonialism through war? Or was it to bring Europeans together to recolonize smaller nations? Well, I know this is about ending European colonialism, so I'm definitely not going to choose C. And it also doesn't sound like this is going to be through war. It's through friendly counsel and expert advice. So I know it's to bring together colonized nations to help them fight for freedom and independence, and also sort of how to go about it afterwards. You can select my evidence, or you can add another to your own. That's the end of this video. We're going to pick it up with independent practice, the outline. I'll guide you through that in the next video.